Hi, I'm Sonnet with Sonnet's Garden Blooms. I want to welcome you all to my channel. Today's video is a bonus. Normally I release every Monday. Having thoughts about possibly trying to do one on Fridays and one on Mondays. So last Friday was a tester, today is a tester as well. Just testing the water, seeing if I can handle working a full-time job, getting 2 videos out a week. So we'll see. It's been going good. This week I had to finish these items. I'm taking over a booth. My mom and I had shared a booth and she decided to downsize her booths. So I'm taking over the whole booth, and I had many items that you saw in my past videos. I was able to still put some of those in there, the ones that I haven't sold. So I put that in there, and now I'm gonna have to add some smalls. So this week, I basically flipped a bunch of items that I purchased in my hauls. So I'm going to show you that process. So follow along, and if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel and you're interested in seeing like DIY, just the ins and outs of a small business owner, this is the channel that you want to follow. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So I grabbed the 3 plates that I had thrifted. These are the wood plates, and I ended up getting, I believe, all 3 for, I think it was $3.99. So here I'm giving them 2 coats of paint, 2 coats on the front, 2 coats on the back of paint. I had a plate very similar to this that I got in a haul a couple of weeks ago. Did this very same technique, and it literally sold within the first day. So we're going to start here by doing the 2 coats of paint, and we're going to let it dry. So the plates are dry, and I apologize, my new arm that I'm using to hold my camera, if I don't tilt it just right, it flips the actual angle of the screen, so it didn't show as much, but basically you get the gist of it. I took a sanding block, I had gotten one from Walmart, and I distressed all the edges of all 3 plates, so you can see I'm doing that. Next, I'm going to use the IOD Farmhouse animals, and I am going to add an image to the center of each of these. In one of my past hauls, I did have a plate very similar to this. I did the exact same technique to it, and I ended up getting, or having it sold like within a day after putting it into my booth. Now you can see, I realized that very quickly that the sanding block was causing a lot of dust in my home. So I did grab a baby wipe, and I wiped, I used that for the rest of my distressing. All right, so on the small plate, I'm going to start there. I'm going to use actually the crockery stamp. All the Farmhouse animals were far too large to fit in there. So I'm going to use the sheep in the actual large plate. And then in the medium plate, I'm going to use the pig. He barely fits. And again, I apologize. You're not going to see, because of the way it is, I don't think you're gonna actually see me stamp that, but you'll see the rest. So I start off by using the IOD stamp pad, which is a permanent ink, and it is, I store it stamp pad down, so not like that. I flip it over to store it, but I also like to add a little bit of ink to it just to get it nice and just so that there's a lot of ink on it. So I do that every once in a while just to make sure my my actual ink pad is all wet. So from there, I'm going to take this stamp pad, and I'm going to flip my stamp over, and I'm going to start stamping it. One other thing to add to the IOD stamps, to prep them after you purchase, you will want to take your sanding block and lightly sand over the entire, all the stamps. That actually preps them for usage. And then to actually clean them after you use them, I just take a baby wipe and I clean off the entire stamp and get that ink off so it's ready to use for the next time. So here you can see I'm stamping over the entire image. You definitely don't want to do what I initially started doing by having that on the plate. That way if I get off of the actual stamp, I can get that permanent ink on that plate. So by laying the stamp down and then doing it, it works. Now here I did kind of like a double image stamp. So I just took that baby wipe while the ink was still wet and I wiped it off. You can definitely do that when the ink is wet, but once it dries, it is permanent. Just so you're aware. So I'm gonna then go ahead and do the pig. Now this one was gonna be a tight squeeze and I knew it. So when I stamped the image and then pulled it back, I realized that the nose did not stamp. So then I just touched it up real quick, added the nose, wiped off that little excess there, and I did the same for his tail. So it turned out great. I loved how all three looked. And on to the next. My next project is going to be this metal container. I absolutely loved it. The detail around the rim of it, I liked that. And then I like the handles. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to give it 2 coats of paint on both sides. And, well, in between, you know, let it dry, but 2 coats of paint. And then I'm going to show you how I'm going to distress this. So it's ready to be distressed, and I started off with the black, the sanding block. And then I remembered how much dust, when I sanded those plates, how much dust that created. So I grabbed a baby wipe and I did a wet distressing. With chalk paint, you are able to wet distress your items, and then that way you're not getting all that dust. Especially I'm doing this on my kitchen table, and I just have my drop cloth down. So it makes it very dust free. I went around and I added distressing to all the details and around the base. And then I want to note that all my items, I do use just a poly acrylic to clear coat all of them to seal it. So my next item was this wall hanger. I absolutely loved it. Again, I loved all that detail. What I did initially was I painted 2 coats of the chalk paint, the Rust-Oleum chalk paint on it. I noticed right away I ended up getting a lot of bleed through. So I did clear coat it. And then I did another coat of the Rust-Oleum chalk paint. When I started distressing it initially, it was going right down. I got real nervous. I thought there's going to be more bleed through. It's going to turn brown. So what I did is I decided to give it a good spray of black. So I did a black spray paint over the entire item. And then I went and now I'm putting on 2 coats of the chalk paint. All right, it is dry and I am now going to take the baby wipes that I used on the past one and I'm going to just randomly distress all over the actual piece. So it's just sporadic and it looks natural. You don't want to distress every little crevice, but I liked how it turned out and we'll go on to the next project. All right, so in my next project, I found these glass, what I thought were cloches, and I found 4 of them and I was so excited and I thought, I've seen them before where they have this round ball on top. So I'm like, oh, that's why the opening's there. Well, I get home and I quickly discover these are actually like light fixtures. So what I'm going to do, I actually found the round balls at Hobby Lobby. I found a 4-pack. I think they were like $4.99. So about $1 a ball. And I know that I can get a round for the bottom. So I thought, oh, I'll grab a round for the bottom, like a round wooden piece. Well, they were all sold out. So I got a little crafty. I had picked these wood pieces out of the garbage, so I cut 4 round bottoms. So I ended up saving myself by doing the work, by cutting them out myself. I saved roughly like $8 a round. So I have 4 of them, and I'm still gonna interpret this as a cloche. Traced the round, and now I'm going to take my jigsaw and I am going to cut around. So now that I have those cut, I am taking 2 of the rounds and I'm going to use the Rust-Oleum white linen chalk paint and give those 2 coats of the chalk paint. Once those are dry, then what I'm going to do is take them back out and I'm just going to use that sander and I am going to distress the edges and just the center a little bit further. Here I'm using the Waverly ink, which is the black chalk paint, and I am going to, again, do 2 coats of paint on both of these rounds as well. And the same thing, I am going to distress them just the same way I would do the 2 white rounds, just the edges, and then directly in the center a little further. So with that, though, this piece will be basically done. I've also, with the little round balls, I've just painted those the same exact way. 2 of them black, 2 of them white. So here you can see I distressed it like I told you about, but I wanted to tell you that I do put a coating on all my pieces. So I do use that poly matte finish, and I did a coat on the front and the back. These turned out awesome. I also did a coat on the little tiny balls as well. Right, so my next project, I took this hurricane, loved it. I took off the glass already, so I already had taken it apart. I'm doing 2 coats of the Rust-Oleum chalk paint on the entire piece, and I'm gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna wet distress it like I did the other pieces. I wet distressed them, I clear coated them. Now there's the glass hurricane. I'm going to just touch it up. I got a little fingerprints on there and put it together. So I love how this is actually turned out. I like too that when I can find pieces that I can take apart to do the painting. But here it is. I love it. It looks awesome. So here I found this cute little glass bottle. Right away I thought, I'm going to take a crockery stamp and I am going to stamp on using the IOD black stamp pad. This one is a little bit trickier just because it is the glass surface. You just have to be a little bit more steady when it comes to the crockery stamp, or any stamps, I should say. So I get the actual stamp all covered in the black ink, and when I centerized it, and then when I lay it down, I want to firmly hold it in the center, and then rub each side without moving it. And I practiced this quite a few times, and then I lift, and then it should be a almost perfect image. So my next project, I found these candlesticks. They were already black. I'm doing the 2 coats of white chalk paint on these as well. So I'll paint those and let those dry, and then I will go on to the next step. So I found these 2 wood pieces. I sprayed them black, and now I am putting on 2 coats of the white chalk paint. I will then do a wet distressing. So I tried to wet distress, but I realized the edges were a bit rough. So what I did is I actually did dual purpose. I sanded it with my sanding block, and then I wet distressed it. It made it much easier, it smoothed the edges, and I did it to both sides of the wood blocks, allowing that black underneath to come through. So here I'm going to take the candlesticks. I'm going to use E6000 glue and put it around the edges, and I'm going to use that to glue the candlesticks to the wood blocks. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that video. I had a lot of fun flipping all those items. I think they turned out great. There's always a couple that I always want to keep for myself. Unfortunately, I can't keep everything. So those will be all heading over to my booth over at Antique Up in Kimberly. And I'll probably show you a little blurb of that possibly in an upcoming video as well. So if you guys haven't yet subscribed to my channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so when I do release a video every Monday, you'll be notified. And then go ahead and give my video a like if you liked it, and then make a comment. Let me know what you guys think. What was your favorite item of this week that I flipped? All right, well, we will see you Monday. You guys have a great weekend. Bye.